Good morning, survivors. One of the best lessons on how to deal with the harsh reality of life didn't come from a therapist, came from bees. And simply put, wouldn't life be much easier and peaceful if we didn't focus and give our energy and control to circumstances and people that hurt or traumatized us in the past? And we are able to make the choice to be grateful, inspired, and restore our hope by the good things that happened in our past. Although for humans, that goes against our nature. For survival's sake, we have a tendency of focusing on negative. We naturally will focus on the problems rather than what has worked out, because being neurotic is a survival mechanism. And trying to challenge that human nature to not let it control you, I still learned from nature. Did you know that there's 3 generations of bees born in the winter that never get to see sunlight? They're born in the hive, they care for the larva, and they die in there. And the first generation in the spring, their first job is the grueling one of pushing those dead bodies out. And I want to go to a story from my 10 years old self, from my geography teacher, that I used to buy this Terra magazine from. It was this nature magazine. I was always this nature nerd, unsurprisingly. And since I didn't have money or a consistent way of purchasing those things, 1 month I couldn't put together some change to buy that magazine. And when she asked, I'm like, hey, do you want it? I'm like, no, not this month. No, a prideful little kid didn't want to be vulnerable. And I'm like, I don't want it this month. But she knew that for almost 2 years now, I would do my best to get it every month. So when she brought the stack of magazines for everyone that bought them, she threw one on my desk. And I was like, I didn't buy it this month. And she played it cool by saying, oh, I just happened to buy an extra one. You can have this one. You can throw it away if you don't want it. And although I don't remember the name of this lady, I remember the impact it left on me, because it restored hope in a very dire situation that I was in. And that's what bees do. Before we had pollinating insects like bees, the world was mostly green, brown, and grayish. The reason why we have these beautiful flowers are simply advertisement boards for pollinators. So bees, in a sense, brought color to our world. And that's why I associate bees and why I have it tattooed on here, because these people that bring color do exist, and often we take it for granted, and we tend to focus a lot more on the ones that hurt us, where the bees that, even in a very logical sense, sustain life on this planet and continue to bring color to it, often get ignored. But what bees teach us is the importance of sacrifice. From the sacrifice of the winter bees to them sacrificing their life to defend their hive, because if they sting, the stinger comes out and they eventually die. And sacrifice for something bigger than yourself and pushing through these harsh winters where you're not seeing the light are quintessential necessities to the reality of life. And more often than not, we also tend to take flowers for granted and the pops of color into our life because our natural tendency of focusing on a negative. To nerd out a bit, stress and dopamine go hand in hand. So suffering ends up being quite addictive. But for something to feel fulfilling, you need to complete the cycle. Yes, first stress and dopamine is high and serotonin is low. But then serotonin might go high while dopamine is low in order for something to feel fulfilling. Because dopamine is not about reward, it's about anticipation of reward. And we're thinking of stressful situation and confirmation bias as doesn't feel very rewarding, but it is. It is exciting because the reward, biologically, it's our survival. But quintessential lesson about human nature is that we have two needs: a need for safety, and that's our animal self, and a need for connection, and that's our conscious self. But in order to get this connection, we have to be willing to sacrifice some of our safety and making a conscious decision to do so. And sometimes to feel connected to the people that inspire us or helped us is making this conscious decision to sacrifice the safety of focusing only on the negative, to take a moment to be grateful for the good. And that alone is why it is a hard decision, so hard that I had to tattoo it on my dominant hand, that when I feel low, I can see the bee and remember that there is still color out into the world. Protect your peace.